Monsieur le Président,
President, sometimes there are times in life when you have to think rather more deeply about things. For a long time, I thought that it was true that as danger rises, people emerge to save a situation. But unfortunately, Europe has shown us that things are not that simple. The danger is increasing, but it's not so clear what's going to save us. And when I hear Mr. Van Rompuy, I'm a bit shaken. You tell us that everything is going well. For 20 months we've been working well, and that you're a good accountant, that you've been doing your little calculations. But during this time, the world is heading off in all sorts of directions, but you accountants are counting, you keep counting all of the days that you spent in your office. Well, no, Mr. Van Rompuy, what has been done is not enough. And the fundamental question which arises for all of us in the face of the crisis, before it, many people thought that the federalization, intergovernmentalism approach would be the most effective. And if you look at public opinion, you can see that federalists did believe in that, but we've seen that that's not the case. Europe is not more effective because the European phone number is in Berlin and there's a secondary line to Paris. That doesn't make a united Europe. Martin talked about the Vienna Congress. You could choose examples all over the place. And what surprises me in this debate today is that, in fact, politicians are resigning and saying, well, what will save us is the intelligence of the central bank. Everybody knows that the central bank will continue to pay. Everybody knows that the central bank will create its euro bonds in its own way. Only there's a fundamental democratic problem. Who controls the central bank? I'm not criticizing the central bank, but I'm just saying you tell us stories about the EFSF and things like that, and you know that that's not what's going to resolve the problems in the crisis. Monti will see Draghi and will say, what are we going to do? I need 200 billion in spring. If I go onto the market, it's going to be a disaster. So I'm coming to see you, and Draghi will say to Monti, well, I'll help you. That's what's going to happen, and it's not going to work otherwise. So I think Guy Verhofstadt is right. Either we really make progress with euro bonds and the 5 wise men, he's right, and what will Merkel say to the 5 wise figures? Well, I have doubts. Well, she has doubts. That's very interesting. She had doubts before the election in terms of Greece. If you are going to build yourself on Merkel's doubts, so they won't succeed, so let's forget about those doubts. But if you carry out an analysis of the problems in Europe, well, I think the Commission should set up a European observatory on the necessary investment in Europe, what we need to relaunch the economy. We need Keynes in Brussels. The nation-states can no longer invest. Not even Guy's Belgium can invest, not even if he were Prime Minister in Belgium. Everybody knows that today we can only work through a European initiative, and to that end we need to know what has to be done. We are in favour of green growth, everybody knows that. We want a green transformation. But we need to talk about what quality of investment we want. But for the Commission to say that we can't just look at stability and budget deficits, they also need to look at the need for investment. And if you analyse the countries and these spreads, well, I think we need to talk about one spread. Is it possible that the minimum hourly wage in France is 9 euros, and in Germany they're looking at a minimum wage of 5 to 6 euros? You will say that's economic convergence and that we can work like that in Europe, but it's madness. We need to make this clear and say it to Ms. Merkel. You've got about 20% of people who are in poverty. It's madness. I would like the Commission, for once, to take responsibility and to say the economic policy of Germany with its export surplus is madness, and it's madness with the inequalities which exist in Germany. This also has to be said.
President, is the time is over, Mr. President.
I'd like to close on one point. Yes, President, Europe sometimes needs an extra 30 seconds to survive, and you need to understand that. So let me tell you one thing.
Shut up! Really? Okay. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. You know? Churchill. Okay. Moi, je voudrais dire une chose sur les champs.
I would like to say one thing about treaty change. There won't be any treaty change unless this Parliament, together with national parliaments, through a convention, as we call it, is the instrument of this treaty change. If you want treaty change done in a small committee, this Parliament will be opposed to it. The Federalist and European groups will be opposed to it. So let's make that clear so that we don't waste our time with treaty changes that won't work. And thank you for listening to me, important people.